waiting in line, All Family Pharmacy handles it all for you. Consultations, prescriptions, fulfillment, and shipping. As we head into the holidays, fall allergies, sinus infections, cold and flu are all around us. Now's the time to stay ahead. All Family Pharmacy is by your side, helping you prepare with your meds for the entire family. From antibiotics to antivirals and ivermectin to blood pressure meds and more. Whether it's for daily use, emergencies, or trusted off-label options, they make it simple. Licensed doctors review every order for safety, and everything ships right to your door. So please visit allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, code BILL10.
Hey, folks, it's Jamie Allman here for the Walner Home Selling Team of Berkshire Hathaway. I love this team so much, and Rodney and Jen love the team so much, I became a member. So now I'm an agent with the Walner Home Selling Team of Berkshire Hathaway, and I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that we're going to get you into a home really super easily and with the lowest cost you're ever going to find, and make sure we find you that dream home. We're also going to list your home and get the top dollar for your home. I'm telling you, Rodney and Jen love this business. You can tell it is infectious, and I'm so happy to be a real estate agent there with them. 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD. Whether you are buying your home or selling your home, I'm telling you what, the costs are going to be absolutely totally minimal, but the professionalism and getting the job done for you is going to be 100%. The Walner Home Selling Team of Berkshire Hathaway, 314-810-SOLD, 314-810-SOLD.
Now the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. Today, there are more dual citizens in the USA than any other time in history. Though commonplace, the debate over multiple allegiances actually dates back to the American Revolution. Here is the story. In the 18th century, loyalty to a single nation became paramount. Early Americans were largely suspicious of foreign influence, particularly from England and France. In 1868, the United States Expatriation Act made it possible for foreigners to renounce their citizenship and formally become Americans. The law was expanded in 1907, allowing more people to legally migrate to the USA. However, the concept of dual citizenship has always been dubious. As of this year, the federal government officially states that it does not formally recognize dual citizenship, but permits it under specific circumstances. Exceptions are made for foreign business dealings, property ownership overseas, family ties, and diplomats. Today, there are more than 9 million Americans who hold foreign passports as well as American documents, 9 million. The largest community comes from Mexico, followed by China, India, Canada, the Philippines, Ireland, the UK, Germany, Italy, and Poland. And here's something else you might not know. The foreigners moving to the USA is a growing trend. As everybody knows, that's what the border crossings illegally were all about. But there's a growing trend of Americans heading abroad. 2 million U.S. citizens, not including service members, now permanently live outside the USA. The biggest expat communities can be found in Costa Rica, Panama, Spain, France, Portugal, Switzerland, Australia, Japan. To boost the local economy, many nations are now offering citizenship to wealthy Americans. You can become Portuguese for $200,000. Want to move to Greece? Buy a home worth 40,000 euros. That's about 50,000 bucks. Uruguay is the easiest. Give them money, you'll get a passport. Back in a moment. If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or have no warranty, listen up. Car Shield is a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan. It's now available to the public. You can save out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Please call Car Shield now. to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. 800-881-0365 for a free quote. This protection plan is at an all-time low price. Drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. So please call for your free quote. 800-881-0365. 800-881-0365. Hey, what do you have to lose? 800-881-0365. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Mary Rose. As part of a deal to reopen the government last week, the U.S. Senate is set to vote by mid-December on whether to revise those subsidies. Changes Democrats say are a non-starter. On the Salem News program this week on Capitol Hill with Tony Perkins, Maryland Congressman Andy Harris, chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, says the 43-day shutdown hardened lawmakers' positions on Obamacare.
You know, the Democrats want to extend these ridiculous Biden bonuses, these COVID-era enhancements for 3 years. Now, maybe we just extend some of them partially for 6 months while we negotiate all the rest of this. But in the end, there is going to be a negotiation on the high cost of healthcare premiums for the other 93% of Americans who aren't on Obamacare. That's going to be part of this discussion.
The Maryland Republican adds that regardless of next month's Senate vote, changes to the so-called Affordable Care Act are inevitable. President Trump has reversed his stance on releasing the Epstein files.
President Trump now says House Republicans should vote to release the files in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Trump had been fighting the proposal as more Republicans supported the release of the files, but that changed Sunday night. Writing on social media, Trump said, quote, "We have nothing to hide." Trump's statement followed a fierce fight within the GOP over the files, including a split with Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Mike Hempen, Washington.
The president, critics claim he admitted a policy failure by lowering tariffs on some items to reduce costs. Republican strategist Aaron McGuire says they have it completely wrong.
President Trump, one, has always spoken of tariffs as a tool in the toolbox, not as the final means for economic success. But the left-leaning lunacy media has always wanted it black and white when it comes for tariffs, and that's just not how it works.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. I've always been a strong believer in precious metals investment, and I've always been fascinated with rare coin collecting. But owning the wrong coins that only make dealers a lot of money can be catastrophic for your investment portfolio. AmFed Coin and Bullion specializes in taking people out of non-performing coin portfolios and turning them into gold, silver, or platinum bullion. They tailor a portfolio based on your goals and not what they want to sell you. You'll never experience scare tactics, misleading hype, or high-pressure sales from owner Nick Grovich and his very knowledgeable staff. They will evaluate your portfolio, show you how your coins have performed, and take the time to educate you on the ugly industry practices so that you can make an informed decision. Smart people can make very bad investments when they're under pressure and lack the facts. Call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. American Federal.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a chance for a few thunderstorms this evening and overnight. They're going to be isolated and brief, but they could contain some hail, mostly small hail, but something to watch out for this evening and overnight with a low down to 50 degrees. Then 71 for the high for Tuesday. There is a chance for some new storms in the afternoon, mainly east of St. Louis. They could produce hail or even an isolated brief tornado. So we made it a First Alert weather day focused east of St. Louis for Tuesday afternoon. We'll watch for any isolated strong storms to develop with that high of 71. Then mostly cloudy and dry Wednesday with a high of 60. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Attention established cosmetologists. Ready to be your own boss? The Nook is seeking 2 talented professionals for a fresh start in your career. Get your own dedicated workspace with full creative control and endless financial opportunities. Just $150 weekly, plus 2 weeks of free rent every year to use however you want. And here's the best part. Mention News Talk STL and get your 3rd month absolutely free. Your new professional home is waiting at the Nook in O'Fallon Plaza. Call 636-385-6665.
Yes, it's been really hot and humid, but fall and winter right around the corner. Tim Jones here to tell you, time to get a hold of Chad Hansen and the gang at Hansen's Tree Service for your home or your business. Grinding, land clearing, green waste recycling, tree consulting, removal, or pruning. The organic mulch from Hansen's a wonderful addition to beautify and spruce up all your landscape beds. They offer substantial volume discounts for bulk orders and emergency tree removal. Just go to hansenstree.com. That's hansenstree.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
Don't always agree, but in love listening to your radio station.
This is tyrannical stuff they're doing.
Elections have consequences.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're lying dog-faced pony shoulder. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Just about an hour ago, the FAA officially stopped reducing flights because of the shutdown and those air traffic control staffing issues. Now airlines are expecting everything to be back to normal by Thanksgiving. In fact, some airlines like American and its regional partners say that they even plan to operate more flights than last year's Thanksgiving holiday.
Thank goodness Democrat Schumer's shutdown over. Maybe people will make it home in time for the holidays. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is a Monday. We're going to get you through the rest of the worst day of the week. Thanks for joining us here, November 17th, 2025. Chris, I did some traveling this past weekend, and I'm going to give a big shout out to an organization that I usually just complain about. American Airlines got me everywhere I needed to be on time, and in a couple cases ahead of schedule. It was busy at the airports, but Chris, I got to tell you, I think the airlines recovered mighty well from this. Thank you to all the air traffic controllers and TSA agents. Chris, everybody had a smile on a face and a song in their heart and was moving people through as fast as they could. And that's the best you can hope for at America's airports these days.
Yeah, exactly. I was wondering, did you have any travel troubles? I know that the flights were cut down from the 10% of what it was originally. They cut them down to 6%. I think now it's only a 3% shortage. So I was wondering, were there any delays? Were there enough TSA agents? Did you get groped? How did it feel?
I didn't luck out. I didn't luck out this time. I will have to say everybody was very friendly. I think they were happy, Chris, because they were all getting their pay.
Yeah, I would be too.
And I went through 2 of the busiest airports on the East Coast. I wish I could say that about St. Louis, but we all know we're not. Yeah. Charlotte, which is a freaking monster of an airport, and they're about to double the size of it with an expansion that they're putting on, and a place I haven't been in a decade or so, Raleigh, Durham. Beautiful.
I've been there once, yes.
Beautiful airport complex. I'm like, why? Okay, are you telling me that Raleigh, Durham is look, I know it's the Research Triangle. I know it's a half an hour from Duke and UNC Chapel Hill and all that stuff, but Raleigh, Durham, it's a great city, but St. Louis should not have worse facilities than Raleigh, Durham. And we currently do. I hope we fix that.
I know. I read the other day, and I had forgotten about it. I think St. Louis's airport, Lambert, is due for an upgrade. I think they're supposed to do some work on the main terminal. Are they?
Remember when we talked to the mayor of Bridgeton? Remember that? Back at Berry Hill when we were there? And he said there is a project that's on the books. That was about what, Chris, when we were at Berry Hill, 6 months ago?
Was that? I was like last year, wasn't it?
Early this year when golf season was going on. And I'm like, Is it ever going to start? Is there going to be an announcement? There's going to be a ribbon cutting, but we need it. When you fly to these other airports around the country, and you don't even have to go to the big fancy ones. You don't have to go to DFW is great. I love DFW. Atlanta. O'Hare's a zoo, but I mean, it's a nice airport. Raleigh, Durham, Jacksonville. These are all places that are mid-market towns, and they have really nice airports. We should at least be competitive with those, and I don't feel like we are right now.
I agree, and it looked like Lambert Airport, our airport, was getting a little more traffic. I know that I think it was American Airlines said that they are going to have a direct flight to London. I think another airline has a direct flight to Germany, I think it is. So maybe we're never going to be a hub again like when the TWA had heyday, but it was good to see some traffic picking up, the international traffic at least picking up in Lambert.
And look, I'll say something nice. They are trying. There have been some major overhauls and some rehabs at Lambert, especially the newer terminal, what we call the Southwest terminal. That every time I go into that Southwest terminal, which I don't do often, but every once in a while, there's more gates, there's more planes, there's more amenities, there's more things. They need to combine the terminals, and they need a whole new footprint, right? They need to do what they did at LaGuardia. LaGuardia is a very similar model. It's a landlocked airport shoved into kind of a corner of northern Long Island, right there on the edge of Queens and Nassau. And so it has similar challenges, if not worse, than St. Louis. St. Louis just needs to do it and be done with it.
Have you ever flown out of the Mid-America Airport over there in Illinois?
I never have. Have you?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm just wondering. Nobody seems to fly out of that airport. It was a big boondoggle. It was supposed to be relieving traffic from Lambert, and people always talk about all the money that was spent there. Nobody flies out of it. So I'm just wondering if you had ever flew out.
I've heard it's one of the most beautiful airports that no one ever uses.
No one uses. Exactly.
Yeah. So the only things that I know that go out of that are a lot of like general aviation, a lot of private charters. And you know who flies out of there is Allegiant.
Oh, okay.
Allegiant is kind of like what's been described to me as, it's basically a charter airline for us normal people. Like if you have an extremely flexible schedule, like you're retired and you have a place in Florida, or you're visiting family in Florida and your schedule is extremely flexible, or you can leave on a Monday, Tuesday, or a Wednesday, you can get great flights and great deals on Allegiant Airlines. You drive over there to Mid-America. You park right outside the front door.
Oh, wow.
You walk right in and you get on the plane.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's only for limited circumstances.
Yeah, and limited people.
Yes.
Attend or go to that airport.
Indeed. You had a busy weekend. I had a couple folks tell me you were doing an MC job over the weekend, and you did a fine job at that.
I did my first music bingo, Tim. I'd never heard of anything like that before, but it was really, really fun. It was 70s and 80s music, and got to relive a lot of my teenage years with the music. It was really fun. Some of the folks dressed up in 80s costumes. The girls did, and had one young lady had the Pat Benatar-like wig on. So it was really fun. It was a fundraiser for Judge Denise Childers. She is the Associate Circuit Judge in the 11th Circuit. She was appointed to that position by Governor Parsons last year. So she has to run for a full term in August. And that's the primary. But, out there, if you win the primary, you're probably going to win the general election. But Denise Childers, great person of integrity, really like her. Got a chance to meet her last year, and it was a really, really fun event.
Cool. Excellent indeed. Did you recognize most of the music or
I recognized all of
ones?
it.
Okay.
So I have to admit, some of the country songs I did not recognize, but all the 80s stuff, 70s stuff, a few 60 songs thrown in there, I knew it all.
That's fun. That's fun indeed. We got a
lot of Jeff County people
really
were out there. Yeah, all of the Cecily Williams representatives. David Castillo was there, and some other folks. So they were out there supporting Judge Childress.
That is very cool indeed. For Monday's show, we got a jam-packed one for you. We have tensions with Venezuela definitely growing. Donald Trump talking about the possibility of having some talks with Maduro and more. Former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. He'll help us break all that down and much more, Chris, at 4:25. Chris's Corner at 4:45, of course, today.
Yeah, cutting off your nose to spite your face. I've got a complete Trump derangement syndrome in Chicago. You won't believe this story. And the long knives continue to be out for Kash Patel. I told you last week the story was put out on him about him using a private government plane to go see his girlfriend. This is another story. Hit job on Kash Patel. And I'm completely convinced, Tim, that this is someone within the administration that is leaking stories to the Washington Post and to the Wall Street Journal to make him look bad. I'm still sticking to my prediction that Andrew Bailey will be the next FBI director either later this year at the end of December or sometime in January.
I'll tell you what, Missourians run wild all across the Trump White House.
Yeah.
There are a ton of Missourians. We speak about some of the bigger names often. Will Scharf. There's also Alex Meyer, who runs the Department of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, he runs IG. I met a young man who was in town a few weeks ago, talking about the RNC's efforts to push back against the left repealing the new congressional map. Fella by the name of John George, also a St. Louisan young man. We've got John Sauer up there.
I was mentioning he's a solicitor general.
Andrew Bailey's up there now. And I know there's more. I know there's others as well. So it's a nice nod to flyover country here to have so many great Missourians serving at the upper levels of our federal government.
And we may have a FBI director that serves in the upper levels of government from Missouri.
Well, he'll do a good job because
he'll do
he
great.
came from a law enforcement background. His first job was a county prosecutor, and those are some of the best. Those are some of the best law dogs that you often find in the country.
Yeah, but they are out to get Kash Patel. These are leaked stories.
That's
These aren't media hating on Kash Patel, and because when you hear the sources, it's anonymous sources who don't want.
Yeah,
they're in the government, but they don't want people to know they're in the government because they say that they're not authorized to speak. When you hear those, that means that's somebody within the government.
Putting Kash Patel aside, it's not a good thing for that to happen.
Yeah.
It affects the whole White House, and it makes people anxious and upset with each other.
Yeah.
Like they don't have enough problems dealing with the left and the media and all that. The last thing Republicans need to do is engage in circular firing squads.
It's Pam Bondi and her deputy apparently don't like Kash
There's
Patel.
a lot of friction between Bondi and pretty much everybody else.
Yeah.
It seems Donald Trump's for whatever reason, Donald Trump's a huge defender of hers.
Florida.
It's a Florida thing. I mean, I was okay with the Pam Bondi pick. I mean, but I wasn't, you know what? I was okay with it. I wasn't overly excited about it, I guess, is maybe the best way to put it.
She's been pretty loyal, though.
She has been loyal. Has she been good? I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess the time will tell. Speaker's stump speech at 5:07. I did write it down. It will be the reality of the receipts.
Oh.
Everybody hears about Epstein and Trump. What about the Democrats tied to the Epstein scandal? You never hear those names, do you? I had a list of receipts sent to me today, and I'm going to tell you why I think Democrats may rue the day that they were so excited about releasing the Epstein files.
Yeah, and I hate to see just this whole thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene and President Trump. I was on Newsmax over the weekend, and that was one of the topics that we talked about was their feud. She's claiming now that because the president is attacking her, she's getting death threats and all this. So I hate to see that with all the disarray among the Democrats and their civil war.
We don't need to engage in the same.
Exactly. We need to sit and watch them do the circular firing squad instead of happening among ourselves. I hope that they can, those two can reconcile because she was one of his biggest allies during his presidency.
I thought it was a very bad look for Marjorie Taylor Greene to play the martyr and to be the favorite new daughter of The View and of CNN.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime, look,
Yeah.
put the personalities aside. If you're a Republican who's being fawned over on CNN by Dana Bash and on The View, maybe you're not doing the right thing is what I would argue.
Yeah, I can see, if you've got disagreements with the president, that's fine. You're a congressperson. You should be able to speak out and speak your piece. But going on The View,
Bridge too far.
that is a bridge.
And Chris, what I understand, I had somebody tell me this. I was in Raleigh over the weekend, and I'll tell the story later. We're running out of time now. I went to a place, Chris, that I am ashamed to say I never knew existed. It was called the Tea Party of the South.
Okay.
Edenton, North Carolina.
Okay.
This little tiny coastal town with tucked into the harbor between the Outer Banks. It was where in 1774, a group of 51 women signed their version of the Declaration of Independence. And, well, maybe I shouldn't feel so bad about it. Apparently, nobody in our country much picked up on it at the time, but they found out about it in London, England, and they issued a series of satirical cartoons making fun of the ladies that became absolutely world famous.
Do they call them wenches?
Some probably did.
That was a big term back there in the 1700s. Call somebody a wench.
We went to the Penelope Barker house.
Okay.
She was the ringleader.
Okay.
She was she was an incredible leader at her time, ahead of her time, who was also had a lot of tragedy in her life. She had 4 or 5 children. None of them made it to adulthood.
Oh, wow.
Chris, apparently back at that time in certain parts of the country, this was very sad. It's something we learned along the way. Many people had huge families because most of the children died young.
Yeah.
And it was sad seeing we went to a very famous graveyard that had 2 Supreme Court justices, a governor, a U.S. senator, and one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, Samuel Johnston.
Okay. I've heard of them.
All buried there. It's a little graveyard. And there was a bunch of tombs where 10-year-old boys and girls were also laid to rest. And so it was a really cool trip, a little poignant, a little melancholy, but they have preserved in this little town 2 or 3 homes that were built in the 1750s that are still standing, and they're renovating them just in time for the America 250 celebration. That's why we went there.
How far is that from Raleigh-Durham?
2 hours.
Okay.
2 hours east.
Okay.
Indeed. Susie Moore will join us at 5:25. Trump sparks buzz. Talks with Maduro may be coming. And what the heck's going on in Mexico City? Over 100 police officers injured during a breach at the National Palace. Is that the next hot spot in the globe? We'll ask Susie Moore all that at 5:25. And then our 5:45 segment that we sometimes unofficially refer to as the segment where we deliver everything you need to know we may have missed. Chris, what do you got lined up for the folks today?
We're going to talk about the United Kingdom's Health Security Agency, Tim. They've identified a significant driver of mental health problems among young people, and you'll be shocked to know what that is.
I won't venture a guess because I don't want to steal your thunder. I think I know where you're going.
All right.
I think I know where you're going. I did a lot of reading on the planes, and I think I know where you're going with that. We'll let the folks wonder, and they'll find out at 5:45. Finally, last but not least, producer Joey V back in the saddle, rip roaring and ready to go today. You look good, my friend. You look fully rested and ready.
Hey, thank you. Todd Showalter and we actually went and checked in on one of our food drive barrel locations.
I saw that.
We went out to Bartolino South. We had a delicious meal, and we brought some cans with us. They were going to try and charge us a corkage fee for opening up our green beans at the table. And I said, no, ma'am, this is going to go in the barrel at the end. And you can't donate without taking a picture, of course. You can't just do it without getting credit for it. So we took a picture, posted online. But Bartolino South, delicious. I definitely recommend eating there.
You want to tell Todd's good news that he revealed over the weekend?
He is going to be a granddaddy, a grandpappy.
Is that a scary thought?
Wow. Grandpa Showalter?
Yes.
Grandpa Todd.
Yes, they'll be about on the same maturity level when the kid's about 3.
He's been
I love you, Todd, if you're listening. You know I'm joking, my brother.
Yeah, he's been talking about what his grandpappy name would be, and he wants it to be Chief. He wants his kid to call him Chief instead of, Grampy or
what up,
like
Chief?
That. Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like Grandpa Todd. Indeed. They're the only person that will call him Chief on the planet, right? Yeah, will be the little grandson. Or is it grandson or granddaughter? Do we know yet?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Well, I'll let you know.
Breaking news. We will bring
I'm sure
to
someone will explode their eyebrows off when they have the gender reveal party. They're never safe anymore.
I think we're going to, once this grandchild is born, I think we're going to see a Todd Showalter we've never seen before.
Oh, of course. Someone who's always got just pacifiers in all his little pockets and pouches just ready to go.
I think so. All righty. Next up, tensions with Venezuela continue to mount. Peace in the Middle East, or do we still have a long way to go? And what the heck's been going on between Russia and Ukraine? A full round-the-world update when Chris and I return with U.S. Senator Jim Talent on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a chance for a few thunderstorms this evening and overnight. They're going to be isolated and brief, but they could contain some hail, mostly small hail, but something to watch out for this evening and overnight with a low down to 50 degrees. Then 71 for the high for Tuesday. There's a chance for some new storms in the afternoon, mainly east of St. Louis. They could produce hail or even an isolated brief tornado. So we made it a First Alert weather day focused east of St. Louis for Tuesday afternoon. We'll watch for any isolated strong storms to develop with that high of 71. Then mostly cloudy and dry Wednesday with a high of 60. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion.
Donald Trump has changed things, and people trying to do what's always been done is not going to work.
Today, alongside this peace treaty, we also are signing a major trade deal.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
One-stop shop for all your gift-giving needs, Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. Tim Jones here to tell you that Newstetter's is rocking and rolling and ready to receive you and your family and help you get much more easily and smoothly and comfortably through the holiday season. No anxiety at Newstetter's. They will take you in with a loving grace and show you around the store. The first time, this is a place that's family owned. They've been around since 1961. There's no high pressure sales techniques at Newstetter's. They don't need them. They've got wonderful stuff, a wide variety of it at incredibly reasonable prices, and they take the time to put a personal touch on everything. Like by the time you make a purchase at Newstetter's, you're going to have all your questions answered. You're going to feel you're going to be thrilled about your purchase, so much so that you're going to want to be coming back again. Newstetter's is at 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, right in the heart of the county of St. Louis. WowDiamonds.com is their website. And everything I told you about Newstetter's, that's the Newstetter's difference that people feel that encourages them to come back again and again. Look, you guys out there, if you're always like, I don't know what to do in a jewelry store, the first time you go to Newstetter's, take your spouse, take your loved one, take your special people in your life with you, and you can work with Diana, Richard, the whole gang, and you can set up your Newstetter's wish list. You everybody writes down everything they want in the future, and then it gets tucked away in the file drawer, and then you can go back in by yourself and pick out the next thing or two or three on the list. Isn't that magical and simple in its wondrousness? They've got everything at Newstetter's. Diamonds and wedding and engagement rings, hand-engraved items, because Richard is a master engraver. You can create a legacy item for your family at Newstetter's. They do jewelry repair and appraisals. They sell awesome watches and repair those as well. They can resize your rings. They can take old jewelry and make it new again. They can design things for you, or they'll be happy to show you all the stuff they've got in their incredibly wide and varied and beautiful stock. Your one-stop shop for all your very special gift-giving needs this Christmas and Hanukkah and holiday season is at Newstetter's, WowDiamonds.com. That's Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, WowDiamonds.com.
Your business moves fast. PRI Global keeps it moving smarter for almost 30 years, delivering top tech talent to help companies grow stronger, custom applications, simplifying your operations, securing your data, modernizing your business from the cloud up. And with Prismatic, you're going to get real-time insights, automated workflows, people, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. PRIglobal.com.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. Fraud and scams can strike anyone. My office works to ensure that Missouri is free from deception and unfair practices. Last year, we handled over 65,000 consumer complaints and returned more than $400 million to Missourians. If you've been a victim of fraud, call 800-392-8222 or visit ago.mo.gov.
Paid for by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that, the stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
U.S. Marines are set to begin joint training exercises in Trinidad and Tobago, just 7 miles off the coast of Venezuela. And this represents a major escalation and show of force in the Caribbean as the Trump administration continues targeting Latin American drug cartels. Just hours ago, the administration launched its 21st airstrike, bringing the total number of alleged drug cartel members killed to 83 since operations began in September. Today, the USS Gerald Ford Carrier Strike Group also entered Caribbean waters, now part of the 15,000 U.S. troops operating in the region, the largest presence there in decades.
429 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and the Department of War, Tim, is calling this Operation Southern Spear. We'll wonder if Maduro's days are numbered, or is the United States just saber-rattling? We've got a great guest to ask that question. Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. Senator, I remember back in my younger days, back in the 80s, a little operation called Grenada, where we mopped that country up in about 3 hours, it seems. And I also remember during the George H.W. Bush administration, we took out Noriega, or Pineapple Face, as he was affectionately called back then. Are we going to see military action in Venezuela?
Well, here's what I think is going to happen. Okay, and I think the administration's deliberately not being crystal clear about what it intends, because this is a form of saber rattling, but I think what they're doing is they're going to move. They are already moving and will continue to move to interdict the drugs, the gangs, and to pressure the Maduro regime with a view towards getting them either to stop these illicit activities, which include a lot of other things, or to abandon ship so the country can be run by somebody who's decent. And you got to remember, the Venezuelans, yes, we know about the gangs, we know about the drugs, the money laundering. They also have created refugee crises, pushing people north, including a lot of their criminals. They play host to Russian ships. The Chinese cover them diplomatically. The Cubans are there. They form a lot of the force that suppresses dissent and enables Maduro to stay in power. And so the administration is both preparing to use force, I think, in a targeted way, or to continue using it, but also presenting such force as to try to make Maduro move. That's my guess as to what's going on here. And I just think it's the Southcom commander has more assets at his disposal than any of his predecessors going back decades and decades. So it must be kind of fun for them.
Senator, deciding whether or not the United States of America should engage anywhere around the globe is always a complicated, complex mess of a decision. And of course, you've got the extremes of people on one hand who say never get involved in anything, anytime, anywhere. And then the other extreme, always get involved in everything as much as possible. Senator, as you know, reality makes this a giant gray space, right? And some may say, well, this is a random South American country. They have really no military. They're not a threat. On the other hand, Senator, they've kind of been engaging in a soft invasion of the U.S. for decades, haven't they? With the influx of the drugs and the fentanyl and then our other narcotics and other things. They are harming the U.S., whether people want to admit it or not, right?
Oh, yeah, there's no question that they're not only a threat, they're a threat that's being realized every day. And look, I spoke to a group last week and I said, I understand the isolationist impulse and I share it. I told them, they laughed, but it was true. I said, I'm the least cosmopolitan person in this room. I said, I fight with my wife all the time because she wants to travel in places around the world, and I don't want to go any place they don't speak English and I can't spend $1, and that is literally the case, But we need to respond when threats rise above a certain level, and I think targeted military action, along with diplomatic pressure, is the right strategy. Has to be carried out effectively, but I think it is, and I would support it to that extent were I in the Congress. I would be very reluctant to support the use of American ground forces. I doubt seriously the administration is planning that. If they do have a sustained military effort that requires supplemental funding, in other words, it can't be paid for out of the budget of the department of the DoD, then we're going to see Congress consulted. Until then, there isn't a reason to. The issue, if I was going to criticize the administration, it's at some point we need an explanation beyond what the president can provide in questions and answers with reporters. And depending on what they do, I expect we'll get it. But this has been a bad thing that has hurt lots of Americans for a very long time, and it's in our own hemisphere. And, far from being something the president shouldn't be doing, this is something past presidents should have been doing. And I'm glad that attention is being paid finally.
Speaking, of course, with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, tomorrow, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman comes to Washington, D.C., and there is talk that he may walk away with a security guarantee similar to the one the president gave Qatar last month. Do you see that happening?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say unlikely. If it does happen, it probably presages a really good thing, the Saudis joining the Abraham Accords. That's what's going on here. I mean, the vision that we have for the Middle East, our government has for the Middle East, is an equilibrium, a stability based on a partnership between Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and the Gulf states, backed up by the economic and diplomatic leadership of the United States. That's what Trump is aiming at. And I think there's a lot of reasons why the Saudis should do it, and good reasons why I think they want to do it. But we're relationship building. I doubt it'll get to the point of a security guarantee at this point. But for example, the Saudis are interested in getting F-35s. And of course, and a fair number of them. I think it's like 45, which would be a year's production. It would be good for the defense industrial base. The issue is, okay, we got to have confidence that the Chinese aren't going to get that technology. So again, this is a complex dynamic here. It's headed in the right direction. We have a possibility for another real breakthrough to stabilize that region. First time that would be the case, really, and certainly in my time involved in national affairs. But it could be, but I would tend to doubt it at this point. Now, having said that, I could wake up tomorrow morning and find out, yep, they got it, right? But I don't think so. And I'm not sure they want it. I think the MBS, that's the king. He's more interested, I think, in solid economic connections, getting the Syrian situation resolved in a way that is acceptable to Saudi Arabia. There's going to be a lot of discussion of Syria, I'm sure.
Senator, following up on that, there was a story out today that talked about the fact that UN ambassador, former Congressman Waltz, who's now the ambassador to the UN, has stated that the peace plan that Donald Trump has crafted between Trump 1.0 with the Abraham Accords and Trump 2.0 with what we just saw, that largely ended the majority of the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and got most importantly got the hostages released. Waltz has said that Middle East peace plan is truly the quote only way forward, and to prove that point, he's the eternal optimist, I guess. He's going to present a resolution to the UN Security Council on Gaza. I guess this is the U.S. trying to drag the UN kicking and screaming to some sense of sanity in that region. What do you think of that?
Right, and flushing out those who've been talking about how much they care about the Palestinians.
Right.
One of the cruelest jokes I've seen, because really the only people who care about the Gazans is Israel. I mean, they developed the country when they were in control of it. They expanded the hospital. They've done a whole lot of things there. So there's two possibilities in Gaza. Okay, one of them is that Israel is going to continue occupying its 53% of Gaza, and that part of Gaza, I think, is going to be redeveloped. It's going to look a lot like a new administrative region from the West Bank. As far as the other half is concerned, there could be governance installed with a sufficient security force to suppress Hamas, in which case there is a possibility of an independent Gaza, which would be a Palestinian state. I think there's a chance of that. The other possibility is that they cannot put that together. Hamas remains, if not in control, it remains an active and energetic force, in which case the Israelis will periodically intervene to make certain that they step on them so they can't be a regional threat anymore. In either case, our interests are going to be protected. The issue is if there were a Palestinian state, it again makes the Abraham Accords easier, because it would help the Gulf states if there was something that looked like a solution to the issues involving the Palestinians. That's the big reason for us to be pushing this. And there's some tension between us and the Israelis, because the Israelis they're taking care of their own security now. We've talked about it on the show, and they're more risk averse than we are for obvious reasons. They're the ones who get attacked, not us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're willing to accept more risk in an effort to get something that the Israelis want along with us, which is an independent, peaceful Palestinian state. So that's the tension. But there's a good relationship between the United States and Jerusalem. I think they're going to be able to manage it. I hope they're able to do this. And what Waltz is doing at the UN is all part of that. I mean, this is a long-term diplomatic plan with a lot of threads in it, if you will, with a lot of aspects to it. And this is one of them.
Senator, the House is expected to vote this week on the discharge petition demanding the Justice Department release the full Jeffrey Epstein files. I'd like to get your opinion on this, first as an attorney and as a former member of Congress.
Well, as an attorney, although not one involved in criminal type prosecutions, that there's some parts of it that they can't release, like the grand jury transcripts. Those are never released, and they shouldn't be. There are other parts they won't release, like all the pornography. As far as the rest of it's concerned, I guess they could release it. I'd be for that. I don't have a problem with it. I don't, either on just a level of should we have transparency or on a level of am I concerned about anybody I like politically being caught up in it? No, I don't think so. And very much to include the president, who's just urged the release of it. So I guess if I was in the House, I'd probably go ahead and vote for it. I don't know how much new we're going to get out of it, but if it satisfies the public that they're seeing everything there is to see, that's a plus.
And Senator, it would be one way definitely to put all the suspicions to bed, right? Because I loved how the Democrats last week selectively released 3 emails involving a woman who is already deceased and basically cleared Donald Trump, but they released certain emails that looked like she hadn't, and they redacted her name, right? To kind of, and then as people dug into it, they're like, well, wait a minute. First of all, this lady basically said Trump had nothing to do with Epstein. And secondly, I guess we can't have any follow-up conversations with her unless we have a Ouija board, because she's gone to the great beyond.
Yeah, well, I haven't read the primary source stuff. From what I have read about it, it seems pretty clear that I don't know exactly when, but it's clear that Trump knew Epstein. Epstein seems to have known everybody.
Unfortunately.
But that Trump was pretty actively an opponent of his, and certainly that Epstein hated him, right? He was constantly trying to figure out how to get him. So I've never been concerned as an American or Republican about Trump actually being involved in anything nefarious involving Epstein. I do think it's pretty clearly a major, it's a point of provocation for the public. And so, I guess if by releasing it, we can satisfy people that we know everything there is to be known, that's a pretty good reason to release it. But you do have to protect the innocent, and
Right.
I've said that all along. I mean, there are people mentioned in this who didn't do anything wrong. There are victims' names who could be mentioned, so you have to be very careful about that. But I mean, he seems to have known a whole lot of big shots, and some of them taken in by him. Some of them, I guess we'll find out, may have been involved with him in some of this stuff. So it would be good if we could get it put to bed, fellas.
I agree. And that is Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. You can reach him on X at Jim Talent. Senator, thank you as always for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you again next Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, 444 coming up, Chris's Corner. We're going to talk about cutting off your nose despite your face. Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, is running wild in Chicago. I have that story for you. And the long knives continue to be out for Kash Patel. I give you the details on that. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk, STL.
And I know you believe in me. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Knowing that you would have wanted it this way. I do believe I'm feeling stronger every day.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a chance for a few thunderstorms this evening and overnight. They're going to be isolated and brief, but they could contain some hail, mostly small hail, but something to watch out for this evening and overnight with a low down to 50 degrees. Then 71 for the high for Tuesday. There is a chance for some new storms in the afternoon, mainly east of St. Louis. They could produce hail or even an isolated brief tornado. So we made it a First Alert weather day focused east of St. Louis for Tuesday afternoon. We'll watch for any isolated strong storms to develop with that high of 71. Then mostly cloudy and dry Wednesday with a high of 60. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story of the great rattlesnake roundup.
Larry Connors USA.
Now, weeknights 6 until 8.
On News Talk STL.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
This is Larry Connors, and my favorite sandwich at Capriati's is a Philly cheesesteak with peppers, sweet peppers, but sometimes hot peppers. I love Capriati's, and so will you.
Open 9 to 9 daily on Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Tim Jones here. I am beyond thankful this Thanksgiving season for God, family, friends, country, and all of you in News Talk STL Nation.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and for this Thanksgiving season, I'm most thankful for good health for everyone, my family, my friends, and you.
News Talk STL, celebrating family and friends this season of Thanksgiving. Brought to you by Best Buy Flooring, D. Gregorio's Food Products, and Golden Chicken.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long have you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at Stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
The most hurtful thing he said, which is absolutely untrue, is he called me a traitor. And that is so extremely wrong. And those are the types of words used that can radicalize people against me and put my life in danger.
449 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. And a lot of people, Republicans, are scratching their head, Tim, wondering what happened between Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were very close allies. She was one of his biggest supporters. A lot of the speculation is that Marjorie Taylor Greene was interested in running for Senate or for governor there in Georgia. And the president looked at the polls, and she was polling very low and basically told her that you don't have a chance. And so folks are thinking that she has some sour grapes against the president. And that's why she has veered off the reservation. I hate seeing this because, like I said, the Democrats, they are attacking each other, and we should not be following suit because, the media is going to focus on what's happening in the Republican Party civil war, but they're going to overlook the civil war within the Democratic Party. And I just hate seeing fuel being added to that narrative.
What I heard was that Donald Trump originally was going to help Marjorie Taylor Greene with her potential future pursuits in Georgia. So he commissioned a poll for her and gave it to her privately. And it unfortunately showed that she was 20 points down or more to John Ossoff.
Yeah.
And he said, I highly recommend you doing this. And this was apparently all private at the time.
Right.
She took great umbrage at this, didn't take the news well. The news leaked out, and then this civil war began. But I heard that originally Trump was just trying to do her a solid and be like, look, let's check it out. And it didn't turn out well. And Trump, he doesn't probably have the best bedside manner.
Right.
I don't know how he delivered the news, but she didn't take it well. And now it's gone from there to the point where we are now.
Yeah, because the poll that I saw that you're referring to, she was like 12% in the polls compared to all the people that were running against.
So how do you blame this on Trump, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, it's your state, lady,
Exactly.
I mean, we all have to deal with that. Look, when you're in elected office, you're surrounded by people that provide an echo chamber, and you think that your name ID is bigger than it is. And she's a national figure, right? In many ways.
Yeah.
And then you learn how hard it is to truly get big name ID beyond the world in which you represent. I had that experience, and it's humbling. It really is.
I'll be very curious because her district is very ruby red. No Democrat's going to win that seat. I'm surprised there hasn't been any polling out showing what her constituents in her district think. Are they angry at her? Are they supporting her? Exactly where does she stand? A politician is all about self-preservation first and foremost. And they usually don't put themselves out on the line if this could hurt their reelection chances. So does she know something that we don't know about her district? Is she polling well, not polling well? I'd be very curious to know that.
I'd love if they could heal this rift. I agree. It's not a good look. She has a lot of talent to lend as far as, she's a heck of a communicator. My understanding from some of the Congress folks I speak with is that she is one of the largest fundraisers in the entire Republican caucus. She's able to tap into people's emotions, something that usually only Democrats can do. And she's figured out how to do that on a national level. The problem is when you start airing all your dirty laundry and doing an apology tour on The View and on CNN with Dana Bash. I think those were two moves that she got some bad advice from the consultants on doing.
I agree. All right, Joy, let's do a little Carner.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Chicago Treasurer Melissa Conyers Irvin has made a decision, Tim, to boycott purchases of Treasury securities, in Chicago. Now, we know that Chicago is cash-strapped. Their public pension funds are very underfunded. They don't have enough money. They have a sinking credit rating. So you would think that you would buy U.S. Treasuries. I think they're paying like 4%. It's a steady return on your investment. You're not going to lose any money with this. But she has decided to boycott the purchases because She wants Trump to tell his agents to, quote, stop putting guns to the head of American citizens. She is upset about the immigration crackdown there in Chicago. She said, quote, we will not invest in U.S. Treasuries as we will not bankroll Donald Trump to terrorize American citizens. Now, the Chicago Treasury has about $10 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds. $10 billion in a $7 trillion government, Tim, I don't think is going to make that much of an impact. But I guess she's trying to get some name recognition and get her name out there, because this may surprise you and everyone in the audience. But she is running to replace retiring Representative Danny Davis, the congressman. So I guess this is something that she thinks that will gin up the Democratic base, because she won't fund Donald Trump's terror on Americans, illegal citizens, or illegal aliens, I guess.
Poll tested.
Exactly. And she wants other municipalities to do the same. She said, quote, if we do join together, imagine the message that will be sent to Washington, D.C., to Donald Trump. So I think that's definitely cutting off your nose to spite your face. And she's trying to win an election, but she's going to hurt the city of Chicago, who is in very, very bad shape financially, as we know. Alexis Wilkins, she is Kash Patel's girlfriend. She's a budding country music star, Tim. And I talked about this story a couple of weeks ago that Kash Patel took a private government jet to go see her, which in itself is okay, because the FBI director is not supposed to fly commercial. He's supposed to fly on a private government jet because of security reasons. But now we learned, and as I said, I swear this story is leaked out. This is not something the hit job. We're finding out that Patel's girlfriend has a security detail made up of elite FBI agents, usually assigned to a SWAT team in the field office in Nashville. That's, of course, where she lives as a country music star. The SWAT team agents on detail with Wilkins would presumably be unable to respond or delayed in responding to crises that might develop in their territory, such as a mass shooting or terror attacks, according to sources, of course, who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive security matters. When you hear that, that screams out that this is somebody within the government is dropping a dime on Kash Patel. FBI spokesman did not respond to comments from the WashPo that was asking about this. But whenever you hear, this is just a primer for everyone, whenever you hear that this person spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive security matters, that tells you that it is somebody in the government, but they don't want their name put out, so they're dropping a dime. So obviously, as I said before, there's rumors that Pam Bondi and her deputy, I can't remember his name, did not like Kash Patel. And it seems like they are putting enough bad things out him so that President Trump will not find favor with anymore and get rid of him. So sad situation there. But you know what they say in Washington, Tim, the favorite saying that if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. And you know who said that? Harry S. Truman.
Harry Truman.
Said that. If you want a friend in D.C., get a dog. And that is Chris's Corner. Joe, you seem to like that. If you want a dog and you want a friend in D.C., get a dog. I saw you kind of smirk there.
Or a cat.
I do love that.
Harry
S. Truman from Missouri.
Harry S. Truman. What's the S stand for?
Single ladies.
Nothing.
Oh, nothing.
Because you know why? There's no period after the S. Did you know that? That's a presidential trivia question.
That's like
Harry
JD
S.
Vance.
stands
His name
for
is just
nothing.
JD.
You knew that.
I did.
All right. Okay, Tim, we've got Speaker Stunt Speech, Reality of Receipts.
Reality of the Receipts. Yes, sir.
I can't wait for that. Sounds like a good one. Reality of Receipts. At 5:24, we'll speak with Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at Red State. We'll talk about what's going on in Mexico City. And at the end of the show, we will talk about the United Kingdom and their significant driver of mental health of young folks. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019 941 News Talk STL.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hey, Mike Ferguson here. And for nearly 40 years, Nutrition Stop has been St. Peter's trusted source for natural living. They've got a great, knowledgeable staff offering more than just products. They provide guidance on your wellness journey with exceptional service, from 100% grass-fed meats like elk and bison and local produce to quality supplements and clean household products. 4101 Mexico Road in St. Peter's, just off the interstate at Cave Springs and Highway 70.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 101.9 94.1.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Mary Rose. The Federal Aviation Administration has lifted its restrictions on commercial flights that were imposed during the government shutdown. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
The FAA says flight schedules have returned to normal. The restrictions were imposed during the government shutdown at 40 major U.S. airports. They had been in place since November 7th and had affected thousands of flights. The FAA says they were needed to ease the strain on the aviation system and to help manage staffing shortages at air traffic control facilities. The flight cuts started out at 4% and increased to 6% before the FAA on Friday rolled them back to 3%. I'm Mike Hempen.
A former official at the Federal Reserve violated the central bank's ethic rules. White House correspondent Greg Cluxton reports.
Former Fed Governor Adriana Kugler, who retired in August, listed several stock trades in her financial disclosure documents for 2024 that violated the central bank's ethics rules. The transactions are outlined in a report released by the U.S. Office of Government Ethics. Fed officials are barred from investing in individual stocks, bonds, or cryptocurrencies. Greg Clugston, Washington.
President Trump announced Friday that he was scrapping U.S. tariffs on beef, coffee, tropical fruits, and a broad swath of other commodities. The move comes amid mounting pressure to combat high consumer prices. Republican strategist Aaron McGuire says White House tariff policies are working.
President Trump smartly is making moves to open up more trade lanes and remove barriers so we can remove tariffs on things to make them more affordable, and you can buy them here in the United States. And that should go for everything.
McGuire spoke with the Salem Radio Network. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Just how good is Pure Talk's current deal for unlimited wireless? Well, you might say it's the deal of your lifetime. Because right now, for just $29.95 a month, Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and data for life. Not your phone's life, your life. This is Pure Talk's top-tier plan. It comes with a crazy fast 5G network along with a 30-gig hotspot. And at just $29.95 a month, there has never been a better opportunity to lock in a ridiculously low rate for as long as you live. And save thousands and thousands of dollars along the way. This plan is normally $65 a month, but if you switch today, you will save over 50% every single month for the rest of your life. See what I mean? It really is the deal of your lifetime. Dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe. Offer ends 12/7. Some restrictions apply. Details at puretalk.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a chance for a few thunderstorms this evening and overnight. They're going to be isolated and brief, but they could contain some hail, mostly small hail, but something to watch out for this evening and overnight with a low down to 50 degrees. Then 71 for the high for Tuesday. There's a chance for some new storms in the afternoon, mainly east of St. Louis. They could produce hail or even an isolated brief tornado. So we made it a First Alert weather day focused east of St. Louis for Tuesday afternoon. We'll watch for any isolated strong storms to develop with that high of 71, then mostly cloudy and dry Wednesday with a high of 60. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
License number E2014A.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Lights flickering?
Chrysler can fix it.
Breaker keeps tripping?
That's a Chrysler job.
Outlet not working?
Chrysler makes it right.
Old wiring need a rewire?
Chrysler rewires with care.
From little fixes to major fixes, we treat your home like our own.
Treat? Did you say treat? Woof.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Democrats must recognize that Zohran Mamdani is the future of the party. Unfortunately, it's the Republican Party. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century or any century. A mess.
Bill Maher giving a lesson in economics and a warning to the Democrat Party. Never thought I'd see the day.
Bill Maher is representative of your grandfather's Democratic Party. That's what the Democratic Party used to be. Common sense, but they were for labor. They were for more progressive ideas, but not this far left AOC Mandami democratic communism that you see today. That's what the Democratic Party used to be about.
And one of two things has to be going on, maybe both at the same time. There's people in the Democratic Party, Chris, like Bill Maher, yearning for the days of yesteryear, hoping that this party turns away from this leftwards lurch. So in the meantime, they just keep voting for him, right? Well, like you said, my grandpa voted Democrat, my dad voted Democrat, my great-grandma voted Democrat. So even though they're socialist, communist, Marxists, I'm just going to vote Democrat because I hate the Republicans. And or Chris, the scarier thing is there's more and more actual voters who believe in this crap. And that's kind of terrifying.
That's what I was going to say. And we've talked about this many, many times, all throughout high school, all throughout college. They are being taught socialism. Our kids now have an entitlement mindset. And you mix those things together, you're going to have a party that thinks that Mandami can give them free buses and free food and free Wi-Fi and all of this stuff. They actually believe that. And there's a jealousy factor. I can't think of the exact word. A jealousy factor comes in where you look at people who have means that are doing well and you want what they have. And if you
Envy.
have to tax, envy. And if you have to tax them for it, to give it to you, that's what you believe is quote unquote fair.
You know, I don't know what we could have or should have done about this. But we, the royal we, okay, what I mean by that, anybody on the right side of the political, like there's the center, think of a center, and then everybody on the right. We on the right have known this was happening. I mean, for at least, I go back 25 years in this battle, talking about how crazy things had become in our K through 12 and our institutions of higher education. We knew it was happening. I don't know. Could we not have done anything about it? Should we have done more about it? But like you said, you can't just concede the entire environment of education to the left and presume that the kids are going to be all right.
And we've seen Donald Trump. He's tried to change that. Look what he has done to these schools. If you are talking about DEI or things that are not constitutional, or you aren't being fair to all of your students and discriminating and letting them be the subject of attacks, then we're going to take your federal funding away from you. I mean, money is money. And if you take people's money away, it's amazing how they change their tactics. The left is up in arms about what Donald Trump is doing. He's saying that they're taking away academic freedom from these universities. But I don't think he's doing that at all. I think he's bringing the pendulum back from far, far left to back towards the center and back to their original mission of educating these kids, not indoctrinating these kids.
And what educrats and bureaucrats and leftists and even, unfortunately, most Democrats will never admit is it's not their money. They don't make, the government doesn't make anything. It just spends and tells you what to do.
And follow up on that. I think coming years, I think the universities are going to lose more and more of their influence just because they are graduating these people with these worthless degrees.
Absolutely worthless.
Being $100,000 in debt. Meanwhile, the guy that went to welding school or the guy that we got has a blue collar job is making six figures and has no college debt and is living the American dream.
I have a speaker stump speech that I like I said, I was on airplanes a lot, so I gathered a lot of material over the weekend. I've got one where I'm going to talk about just that, how to pursue the American dream, old school style. And it doesn't involve having to, look, we love people who invent things. We love entrepreneurs, but a lot of that stuff it's a combination of luck and skill. It's 1 in a million, right? Yeah. There's a lot easier way to live the American dream. And it's pursuant to pursuing capitalism, working for a good, solid company, putting your time in. And I'll tell you folks about this later in the week. There is a certain company, a normal company that has created more millionaires than you could imagine. And you'll be amazed when you hear what industry it is. It's nothing fancy, but it's just a great company that's been around for decades. And people,
Walmart? No, don't give it
away.
Well,
that's one of them. That's one of them. But this is a different one. This is a different level. Yeah. But this is the thing they're trying to destroy. The left doesn't want the perpetuation of free markets and capitalism in this country. And it is shocking. Somebody who I couldn't stand Bill Maher 10 years ago. The guy makes more and more sense every day because he sees, look, he's a Democrat. He's a liberal. He is not going to become a Ronald Reagan, Trump supporting Republican, but he also doesn't want to see his party descend into this failed socialist state.
And the Democrats are in a dilemma because they're always talking about they want good, high paying jobs, that you shouldn't be going to work 8 hours a day and be in poverty. But the dilemma that they have, if a person is going to have a good, high paying job, they're going to work for somebody that provided them that job, but that person's going to be very wealthy because they own the company and they had a good idea themselves. So if you're going to have high paying jobs, good high paying jobs, the people that put the idea together, form the capital to do the organization are going to be wealthy. So you're not going to have poor people employing people with good jobs.
And look, I don't want to terrify anyone or create any necessary anxiety. But if the Democrats, if Americans writ large don't realize what the Democrats have become these days, and let's say the Democrats, let's say the Mondami AOC squad Democrats end up winning more elections, if they somehow deceive people into voting for them,
God forbid,
we will walk down the path of other countries that have done that. Look at Venezuela. Bill Maher was talking about Venezuela. Venezuela used to be one of the richest nations in the Southern Hemisphere. Argentina, one of the wealthiest nations in the Southern Hemisphere. They descended into socialism and then communism and then oppression, chaos, catastrophe, and death. only after then completely going the other way and electing a libertarian, Milei, Javier Milei, the first libertarian ever. Like, that's how bad things had become in Argentina. They went to the completely opposite side of the political spectrum. We're like, maybe this libertarian guy can save us from ourselves. And he has.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through that whole experiment, though. I'd rather not witness that.
And the fact is, we actually already saw a glimpse a little bit of America becoming socialist and spending money and going into debt and high inflation. That was Joe Biden. What was the name of the bill that he came out of? The Beat Inflation Act,
the
or whatever?
Inflation Reduction Act.
The Inflation Reduction Act, where we spent billions and billions of dollars. And what did we have? Inflation at a 40-year high, labor participation rates at 50-year lows. The economy was stagnant, was doing terrible. I mean, that's just a small glimpse of what could happen if these people get into office for longer terms. Just imagine the Biden years being permanent.
Mm-hmm. It did the exact opposite of what they promised it would do.
Shocker.
Exactly like it always happens. Yeah. So if you don't want to listen, look, I know there's a few liberals that listen to this station.
We love you.
We love you. We thank you. We thank you for your support.
You're a little misguided, but we love you.
Please patronize all of our awesome advertisers. They're wonderful people. They're hardworking individuals. Yeah. Listen to Bill Maher. He's on your side, gang. Yeah. Or he was, and I think he still is. He's not a Republican. He's not a conservative. So maybe listen to some of the sane voices in your midst.
You think he'd call himself a libertarian?
I wonder if he's that far yet. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know, he might call himself like a classical liberal or something. I don't know. I don't know what he'd call himself. He'd call himself sane, probably, you know. And I know he's Jewish and he defends the Jewish state, but that doesn't mean that that's the only reason why. I mean, he's just a sane human being, you know. Yeah. The Democrats don't. I mean, one of the reasons Josh Shapiro is going to have a tough time is because he's Jewish now. The Democrats apparently hate the Jews and they hate fiscal sanity. You know, what's next?
Who knows?
Hey, who knows? Indeed. Epstein.
Don't ask me to try to figure them out.
Epstein's next, Chris. That's all that they've got to hang their hats on. Well, they may get exactly what they asked for, and they may rue the day. And that is the subject of today's Speaker Stump Speech.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Today's title, once again, is Revealing the Receipts. Yeah, you know, Democrats have largely used the Epstein scandal, just like I quickly jotted down a few other scandals that never came to anything, despite all the hyperventilating and the breathlessness and the promises that we're going to get Trump or so-and-so.
Remember, it's only an hour show.
I know. I got to wrap it up here pretty quickly here. Russian collusion. You remember that journey? 3 years of beady eye Adam Schiff going on TV and telling us that he's got the goods. Don't you remember that, folks? He said night after night that he's going to get Donald Trump, that he had the smoking gun. Well, the only smoke was apparently between his ears, and it never materialized into anything. Their great hero, the guy who was going to write the report on Russian collusion, ended up as I remember that day that came out, we were all sitting there breathlessly watching the TV. When Mueller released the report, it was a complete and utter dud. There was never anything there, and there was never going to be anything there. It was a political tactic. Same with the whole Ukrainian quid pro quo phone call that Trump had with Zelensky, where Trump was actually trying to figure out what in the world Joe Biden and his family were doing with Russian oligarchs and with Ukrainian mob bosses and with Chinese diplomats and so on and so forth. Did you notice over the weekend the story that came out where they talked about all the settlements that Donald Trump has reached with all the people who have smeared his name? Did you know he's up to $95 million in legal settlements from various sources? Look, as a former recovering lawyer, I know there's a lot of reasons to settle a lawsuit, but one of them is so you get out while the getting's good and you don't end up getting completely hammered in court because you did something wrong. $95 million. Folks, that's not just nuisance value. That's not chump change. I think there was a lot of fire where all that smoke was. And finally, who could forget the resistance of lawfare and lawsuits and BS that was concocted every single night and shoved down our throats? Resistance was futile. Big news story update. Look, I thought Senator Talent really clearly laid out why you couldn't just just unilaterally, ham-fistedly say, okay, here's all the Epstein documents. There's a lot of dangerous stuff in those documents that we need to protect as far as victims and horrifically sordid details. There's a lot of reputations that I'm talking about the victims here. Some of these victims are still very, very much alive and with us. And I'll bet you that they probably don't want the Epstein files released, at least not in their totality. So what the Democrats have done is say, you got to release all of them right now, yesterday. Well, then why didn't they do it when they had full control of the government? You know that if there was something absolutely damaging about Donald Trump or any other major Republican, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would have absolutely released those during the 4 years that they had the top clearances and knew exactly what was in those files. I think that the Democrats simply want to use this as a political cudgel, and when nothing else comes out about them, they'll just do what they always do. They'll just whistle on past the graveyard and act like it never happened. Finally, just a few reminders as to some of by the way, I think there's some Americans who actually think that none of the Epstein files have come out. There has been tens of thousands of pages already released. I guess that I can't believe there's that much information about this guy, but apparently there's a couple more tractor trailers out there. But from the Epstein files, which have been released, what do we know? Well, we know that Delegate Stacey Plaskett from the U.S. Virgin Islands solicited and was given $30,000 from Epstein for the DCCC after he was a convicted sex offender, and that Plaskett herself accepted maxed out donations from Epstein for her own campaign. Democrats don't talk about that much these days, do they? How about the fact that former President Bill Clinton, now I know some people know about this, but I don't know if people actually remember the details. President Bill Clinton traveled on Epstein's plane, the Lolita Express, that's what it was called, 26 times. I doubt all of those were trips to Disney World. One of Epstein's victims wrote down in black and white that she saw Clinton on Epstein's island with two young women, and that that Clinton's visit to the island was corroborated by his former top aides. Don't hear much about that these days, do you? How about the fact that Democrats refused to discuss the fact that there was a long relationship and a storied friendship between Larry Summers, ex-Harvard president, Clinton Treasury Secretary, prominent Democrat, who had a close relationship with Epstein, who described himself in his own words, Summers used his own words, as Epstein's wingman. Why aren't Democrats talking about that? How about the fact that Democrat so-called journalist Katie Couric had dinner herself at Epstein's residence after he was already a convicted sex offender who served jail time? Look, if the Democrats want to play this game of knowledge equals guilt, then they're going to have to do that with people on their side of the aisle as well. Finally, and I think this is maybe what this is really all about, I don't know that there was necessarily anything horrific about Trump, but I wonder if Trump was protecting people on both sides of the aisle who maybe he didn't want to necessarily throw under the bus, like donors and other such folks like Reid Hoffman, billionaire Democrat mega donor who visited Epstein's island many times, attended dinners with him, and planned to stay at his New York mansion. I could go on and on and on because a multitude of Epstein files have already been leaked. But if you were to listen to the Democrats, you would think that nothing had come out. And if we can only get this next batch, then we'll finally get Trump. This has nothing to do with getting Trump. It has to do with the fact that Democrats don't have any good ideas these days. And so the only thing they can do is continue to suffer through their Trump derangement syndrome. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
You know, one of the emails that the Democrats released over the weekend, one of the selected emails, was an email from Epstein saying that Bill Clinton never visited his island once. That's an Epstein email, but I don't know if I necessarily believe that, because Epstein had kind of a weird fetish with Donald Trump. Remember the picture they found in his home where Bill Clinton had on like some pumps and was sitting in a chair, and it was like a weird painting. So I don't know if I necessarily believe that. Maybe he sent that email to try to cover for Bill Clinton. I don't know. But yeah, Bill Clinton, they cited that email. The Democrats cited that email. It was all over the weekend, them talking about that.
I think what we're going to learn from this final batch of documents when it comes out is that this whole thing was a sad, sordid tale. There was a lot of tragedy involved.
Yeah.
A lot of young ladies were hurt in the process, and that Donald Trump had little or nothing to do directly with it. I think that's going to be the ultimate conclusion. And then the Democrats will move on to something else, and they'll act like this whole episode never occurred.
Unless they win control of the House, and then it'll be an endless investigation.
Well, they'll impeach him again.
Yeah.
They're going to impeach him again.
Or they'll be doing all type of investigations forever if they get control of the House or the Senate.
And if Donald Trump doesn't figure out how to run again in 2028, then they will have to move on and hate somebody else, I guess, after that. All right, we're going to next speak with Susie Moore. Trump sparks buzz. Talks with Maduro of Venezuela may be coming. And what the heck's going on in Mexico City? There were over 100 police officers injured during a breach at the National Palace. Is that going to be the next major hotspot in our hemisphere? We'll discuss all that and more with Susie Moore of Red State next. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a chance for a few thunderstorms this evening and overnight. They're going to be isolated and brief, but they could contain some hail, mostly small hail, but something to watch out for this evening and overnight with a low down to 50 degrees. Then 71 for the high for Tuesday. There is a chance for some new storms in the afternoon, mainly east of St. Louis. They could produce hail or even an isolated brief tornado. So we made it a First Alert weather day focused east of St. Louis for Tuesday afternoon. We'll watch for any isolated strong storms to develop with that high of 71. Then mostly cloudy and dry Wednesday with a high of 60. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa.
Yes, I'm listening.
Play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Hey, I tell you all the time, I don't need a bank with a skyscraper in New York or a call center overseas. I need a bank that knows St. Louis streets, St. Louis families, and St. Louis dreams. That's what Royal Banks delivers. Real community banking backed by decades of trust and local commitment. Because at the end of the day, banking isn't just about dollars. It's about relationship. It's about sitting across from someone who understands our community because they're part of it. Someone who doesn't just see an account. They see your goals, your business, your family, and your future. That's why I've been banking with Royal Banks of Missouri for over 20 years. Royal Banks, they've been serving our region for more than 60 years. And they just reaffirmed that commitment with a brand new headquarters in University City, right at Olive and McKnight, bringing their home base back to where it all began. And they're not just rooted here, they're thriving here. In September, Royal Banks was named the 23rd fastest growing private company in St. Louis and the fastest growing bank at the 2025 St. Louis Business Journal Fast 50 Awards. 16 locations across St. Louis, St. Charles, Illinois, and Northeast Missouri, still locally owned, still independent, still community strong. Tomorrow, me and the gang will be at the Royal Banks of Missouri 2025 Economic Summit Forecast Breakfast. That's going to be out at the factory in St. Charles County. Or in Chesterfield, excuse me. I think that you can still RSVP for that. You can go to royalbanksofmo.com if you'd like to attend that breakfast. royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks, Missouri, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michaels Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michaels has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
This holiday season, help Feed My People fill the shelves. News Talk STL and the STL County GOP are partnering for an annual food drive, November 10th through December 21st. Drop off your non-perishable food donations at all Bartolino's restaurants, all Chris's Pancakes and dining locations, and all 3 Michael's Flooring outlets, or at the News Talk STL studios.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo, and together we can make a difference for families in need.
Visit newstalkstl.com for complete drop-off locations.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
This Susie Moore segment brought to you by Harpo's Bar and Grill in Chesterfield. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Update on Venezuela, Mr. President? On Venezuela, update?
No update. We may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
Let me start over. The co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show and the deputy managing editor at Red State, our own Susie Moore, has written about that issue and more. Let's bring her in now and next.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
How about that? Indeed. Susie Moore, deputy managing editor of RedState.com, host of Red State Radio, co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, joins us once again to round out our fantastic Manic Monday lineup. Susie, Trump sparks buzz, you say. Talks with Maduro may be coming. Bring our audience, Susie, up to speed with what's going on with the Venezuelan dictator and the United States of America.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with Venezuela. And actually, I think over the weekend, there were some kind of calls from Maduro indicating that he wanted there to be talks. And Trump's comments last night were kind of the first time where he indicated that there might be something that they would have to talk about. But at the same time, the administration announced that it's getting ready to label one of the preeminent cartels from Venezuela a foreign terrorist organization. And they've really been sort of tightening the screws, both with the moving of their military assets to that area. And so it kind of seems like maybe, they're putting enough pressure, they're bringing enough pressure to bear that they think Maduro may be pliable, if you will.
Susie, you've got an article about judge's order compelling DOJ to disclose grand jury materials in the Comey case. Former U.S. Assistant Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Andrew McCarthy, who was a National Review columnist, he's also a Fox News contributor. He had an article over the weekend saying that he was pretty sure that the cases against Comey and Letitia James are probably going to be thrown out. Your thoughts on that?
Well, he's a subject matter expert, and I respect Andy McCarthy. I think sometimes his opinions are shaded a little bit more by some residual never Trumpiness.
I agree.
But the same could be said of me in reverse. I obviously am a supporter of President Trump, but not blindly so. I think that there probably there's a legitimate argument that could happen. This ruling that we saw today in the Comey case comes from the magistrate judge that's overseeing some of the preliminary procedural disputes in the case against Comey. And he pretty much took the DOJ to task. Now, you remember they were up against a tight deadline on trying to get an indictment against Comey before the statute of limitations expired, because the statements upon which the indictment is based were from September of 2020. And this newly appointed interim U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan, who doesn't have a lot of experience in this area is the one who did secure the indictments in the grand jury. And there's some questions about whether or not all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed, and whether or not there was some evidence that was presented to the grand jury that maybe shouldn't have been. So what's happening now is that Comey's attorneys, as they should, because they are zealously representing their client, are requesting access to those grand jury materials so that they can review and see if they've got any additional bases on which to say, look, this was not brought properly and the case should be dismissed.
Susie, on the other hand, that doesn't necessarily mean that the case against Comey will automatically be dismissed and will go away forever and ever, amen, right? Because to invalidate an indictment, that's a whole different level and standard, correct?
It is. Yeah, I mean, what the judge's ruling today just says you need to let the other side see, you need to show your hand to the other side, basically. Nothing has been ruled on yet, but those motions are before the court, and, that's obviously a jurisdiction that's probably going to be pretty favorable to Comey, and populated by judges who are probably predisposed to sympathizing with him, if you will. So the DOJ could be on thin ice here. And I don't know enough about obviously what specifically was presented, nor was this my area of expertise in terms of practice to be able to say, oh yeah, they did this right or they did this wrong. I would just say that, that there are some issues that are being rightly raised by Comey's defense attorneys.
As they should.
Doing their job if they weren't. That doesn't mean that the case is going away. We just are going to have to wait and kind of keep following along and seeing. But the DOJ did get kind of called out by this judge in his order.
One other thing that I read about Friday, one of the arguments that Comey's attorneys are making is that this U.S. attorney who was trying the case, her temporary status has expired, that she is not eligible to pursue this case. And the argument that they're using, they're combining her tenure and the person that was there before her, adding their both tenures together and saying that's why she's no longer eligible. I'm not an attorney, but I would think that the clock would restart with another appointment, wouldn't it? With a new appointment.
I am an attorney, and I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that you're raising a very, very valid point. I know that that's one of the issues that they are arguing, and I know that that's going to be considered by the courts. I don't know how that's going to shake out. It's kind of one of those things where, the president is put in a strange position where the Senate isn't approving his people, so he has to appoint somebody on an interim basis, but you can only do so much, with the time that you've been given. So I don't know how that's all going to shake out.
Mm-hmm. Susie, I saw an interesting story. It's actually the lead story under the trending topics tab at redstate.com. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this, edit it, review it at all, know anything about it. But the title really grabbed my attention, and I read the first paragraph or two. Whoops, Schumer's Epstein files answer goes sideways fast, written by your colleague Nick Arama. Do you know what Schumer stepped in relating to Epstein? Seems like anybody who gets anywhere near even that name has trouble.
Yeah, I actually do, because I did edit that article. Basically, Schumer was asked, why wouldn't the Epstein files have been released, in the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Aha!
And Schumer not picking up on that goes, that's the question. What the hell is he hiding? Meaning to imply that it was Trump hiding it.
Whoops.
So
forgetting who the last president was, right?
He's under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
He clearly.
Oh my
so yeah, whoops indeed.
Oh my.
Susie, the lead story on Red State currently is by Ward Clark, auto pen problems for Trump, not according to one witness. I did hear a little something about this yesterday. I saw it, where I think that the Justice Department put out a bunch of pardons that the president had given, and someone had noticed that the signatures looked like they were all the same, like it was from an auto pen. I didn't delve into the article, didn't read it, didn't interest me all that much. But what's the beef here? What's going on?
Well, and I'm like you. I haven't delved deeply into it. I saw it. I saw Will Sharp's refutation of it. He's the one who's saying it's 100% fake news. I don't know. I didn't see the original what was put out. I don't know who put that out. I don't know if there was something, that was confusing about it. I think one thing that anyone's going to have trouble with is contending that President Trump doesn't actually sign the vast majority of orders and edicts that are coming from his office. We see it. We see it every day live on television with his big black Sharpie. So I'm not 100% sure what happened there. We know Will Scharf. I have no reason to disbelieve that he knows what he's talking about in terms of what has and hasn't been signed by the president. So if he says that story is false, I'm inclined to believe him on that.
And I think the thing that adding fuel to the fire is, as soon as someone noticed that the signatures all looked alike, the pardons or that article or whatever it was on the website was taken down immediately. And I think that's the thing that's fueling the speculation more than anything.
Could well be. And as I said, I haven't delved into it enough to know if there's some there, or if this is just, the two online set being looking for more than what is really there. Right. But yeah, I don't know. Again, if they're going to try and argue that somehow President Trump isn't actually actively participating in his presidency, they're going to have an uphill battle on.
Yeah, look at the 3-hour press conferences he does all the time. Speaking to Susie Moore at SmoozyQ on Twitter, I'll get back to that in a second. Deputy Managing Editor, RedState.com, host of Red State Radio, co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show every morning, 5:30 to. Yes, she is indeed. Susie, I noticed on your Twitter X feed at SmoozyQ that you are following a whole host of lawfare cases against the Trump administration, because there's a whole boatload of them, regarding the illegal immigration saga, various cases on various issues. Susie, my question is there a major momentous case that you're tracking that's working its ways further up through the upper echelons of the appellate divisions and may land before the Supreme Court? Or is there one there right now, the Supreme Court, you're waiting for a decision from, that could clear out some of these other lower court decisions that seem to be filed by Democrats all across the country?
There's no one particular case that's going to do that, because there are different issues that are presented in each of them, and they're in various stages of finality. In some cases, the Supreme Court has already weighed in and issued a stay, but that's just a stay. I mean, that's not a final decision on the merits. Right. That's just saying, okay, the lower court decision is being held for now. One that I think got a lot of attention that earlier on in the year that I think might start rearing its head again is the case involving Judge Boasberg with the Tren de Aragua members who were being flown out under the Alien Enemies Act to El Salvador back in March. In that case, the judge back in the spring found grounds to hold the government in contempt for basically not abiding by his temporary restraining order and not turning those planes around, essentially. The upper courts, the appellate court, not the Supreme Court, but the appellate court basically said they vacated his decision on that, but they kicked it back down to him. And it doesn't foreclose him further exploring whether there's a basis to hold the government in contempt. They're going to have a hearing on that on Wednesday, and I suspect that that's going to be interesting just to see. I mean, he knows he's under the microscope right now, too. There's already been articles of impeachment filed against him by Brandon Gill of Texas. So is he going to talk to the parties, give a stern, warning to the government and then move on? Or is he going to dig in and try and find some other basis to hold the government lawyers in contempt? That's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, there's a whole host of them. There are different issues. The Supreme Court today just agreed to take up a case that actually originated under the Biden administration that has to do with whether or not would-be border crossers who are seeking asylum have to actually be present in the United States to formally, assert their rights. And it's a complicated issue. The Trump administration actually did ask the Supreme Court to review it, and they have agreed to take that case up. That's one that'll be argued after the first of the year, and then they'll issue a formal decision on it later in the spring. But as you implied, there's 400. Well, there's more than 400. There's probably 600 or 700 cases.
Holy smokes.
Involving the Trump administration at different stages, some of them with much more significance than others. And I'm tracking the ones that I can. And I use my Twitter feed just to keep track.
Oh, Joey, did you hang up on Susie?
Oh, we lost her there.
We done lost her.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to follow that conversation up next week.
I was going to ask her about her story that she had Saturday about the breach at the National Palace.
Oh, my.
In Mexico City.
Crap.
And remember, I talked about how the president of Mexico was groped on her way from the National Palace to the Congress. So what the hell is going on in Mexico City?
Hey, call the Mike Ferguson show in the morning.
I'll do that.
And ask her then, or send her a tweet. She'll respond to it. She will indeed. Well, that was Susie Moore. She's with Red State, redstate.com. She is the host of Red State Radio. She's the co-host. Mike, everybody at the station are hardworking people, and Susie is definitely at the top of the ticket.
She works hard for her money. Remember that old Donna Summer song?
I do.
She works hard for her money.
I do very much indeed. Chris, before we head to a break, let's remind people about something you mentioned earlier in the program, and that is our canned food drive. Yes. Joey mentioned that as well. He saw one of the big red buckets at Bartolino's. We have those big red, they're actually giant, like 40-gallon drums. You can't miss them. They're giant red drums. They've got our signage all over it. They're at 9 locations around the metro area. I think there's 10 of them now. I think Renee Artman said there's one at Friendly's down in South County. So maybe there's 10 of them now. They're out there. Go to our website, newstalkstl.com, and find out everywhere that you can drop off canned goods, non-perishable items. We'll take toys. We'll take toiletries, anything that's non-perishable that you think people could need as we head into the winter months. Dump them in the buckets, and we're going to get them to a great local charity called Feed My People. Thank you to everyone.
Excellent. And as you mentioned, toys, especially with Christmas coming up. I can't think of anything sadder than a child on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day waking up and not having any toys. So
fill those buckets. Fill those buckets. We have generous folks in our audience. We are going to feed and clothe and gift the entire St. Louis region with your help. We can't do this all ourselves. We need your help in filling up those buckets all over the St. Louis region. NewsTalkSTL.com is where you can find all the bucket locations. And while you're there, like Joey did, grab a sandwich, grab something to eat, patronize these wonderful advertisers who are willing to do this and help us with this and monitor these buckets. We thank them all very much. Indeed. 5:45 in the PM, one of the fastest Monday shows indeed, almost in the can, but don't go anywhere. Chris, what do you got coming up after the break?
United Kingdom Health Security Agency has identified a significant driver of mental health problems among young people, Tim, and it may surprise you what that is.
Oh, baby. I can't wait to hear all the deets on that. When we come back, we'll tell you that, and we'll prepare you for Larry Connors USA. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with producer Joey V. Rolls on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have a chance for a few thunderstorms this evening and overnight. They're going to be isolated and brief, but they could contain some hail, mostly small hail, but something to watch out for this evening and overnight with a low down to 50 degrees. Then 71 for the high for Tuesday. There's a chance for some new storms in the afternoon, mainly east of St. Louis. They could produce hail or even an isolated brief tornado. So we made it a First Alert Weather Day focused east of St. Louis for Tuesday afternoon. We'll watch for any isolated strong storms to develop with that high of 71. Then mostly cloudy and dry Wednesday with a high of 60. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News Talk STL.
Chris Arps here, and I'm thankful for my relationship with Christ, my wonderful wife, Becky, and the opportunity to speak to the great listeners of News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Tony Colombo, and as we approach another holiday season, I am thankful that my family continues to be happy and healthy. Oh, and I'm also glad I don't work for George Soros.
News Talk STL, celebrating family and friends this season of Thanksgiving. Brought to you by Candici's, Parlor Donuts, and Amis Italian Restaurant and Pizzeria. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Getting out this home with $1 in his pocket and a heavy Philippines. He said somehow, someway, it's gotta get better than this.
I'm going to agree with you that Democrats cannot only be the party of resistance. We cannot, we resisted so hard between 2017 and 2024. We impeached the guy, we prosecuted him, convicted him of 34 felony counts. And guess what? He still got elected. So I don't know how much harder we can resist right now.
Are you admitting that, that the case against Trump in New York was part of the organized Democratic Party resistance?
It was a Democratic prosecutor. And at the time, I said I thought it was unwise. I went on Fox News and said
There were Democrats who said this at the time.
There were a lot.
Just to be clear, everybody who now touts the 34 felonies, take it from Liz. This was not a real case. This was a plot to upend the presidential campaign, which
I just think it was a boneheaded move by Alvin Bragg.
548 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Boy, how honest they get years after.
Amazing.
Before, this was a threat to democracy. Trump is the biggest criminal
Hitler,
after Al Capone.
Hitler,
Now they admit what most of us already knew, that this was a plot to get him out of the race and not run for president, because they knew running against Joe Biden, he had a pretty good chance of recapturing the White House. And he did. He didn't run against Joe Biden, of course. He ran against Kamala. And really, that made it even better for the president. All right, Tim, let's get to the big story here. The United Kingdom Health Security Agency, wow, that's a mouthful, has released a report identifying anxiety about climate change as a significant driver of mental health problems among young people. Yes, folks, stop rolling your eyes while you're driving. You don't want to run off the road. An awareness of climate, this is what they wrote, quote, an awareness of climate and environmental change can also lead to emotional or psychological responses such as anxiety, eco-anxiety, a term used to describe the distress and worry caused by the threat of climate change, and solastalgia, never heard of that, which refers to the distress experienced as a result of environmental change, including climate change, negatively impacting on someone's home or sense of place. How long do you think that it'll be before this will be a disability that you can get paid for and you can stay at home?
Trial lawyers are salivating as we speak. Yes.
Eco-anxiety. I can't work. I have eco-anxiety. It's cloudy outside.
Yeah. Let's create more protected classes, Chris. Let's create more litigation against businesses. Let's create more reasons for people not to work in today's economy.
This is absolutely insane. These people have taken
what'd you call it?
Eco-anxiety. And then, or it's solastalgia. Solastalgia. Never heard of it. Maybe that'll be part of the dictionary in a few years.
We suffer from that here in the Midwest.
I do. I've got solastalgia
right now. It's cloudy today.
Exactly. And the weather and the time has changed as well.
Go tell Jeff and Joe that tomorrow.
So I have solastalgia. Yeah, I need disability. Can you put me on disability? I have eco-anxiety.
I can only imagine what Joe Rush would tell you.
Yeah, we couldn't say it on the air. You know what Joe would say. Yeah, get your eco-anxiety out of my office. All right, here's a sad story to me, but it shouldn't be surprising. Fewer than half of Americans say religion is an important part of their daily lives. That's the lowest level on record, Tim.
Wow.
And a drop of 17 percentage points over the past decade. One of the largest declines in the world. A record number of Americans, 29%, identify as religiously unaffiliated, while 62% identify as Christians, down from 78% in 2007, according to the Pew Research Center. Now, Tim, a lot of people would say this is just simple reasoning, simple logic. You can't do this. But do you think there is a correlation between Americans being less religiously affiliated and all of the social economic problems that we are having in our country, that when they took saying prayers out of school in the 1960s, that now our schools are absolute hellholes and places where people are going to the restroom and transgender girls are going in there and assaulting them? Can there be any correlation at all, do you think?
Absolutely. It's the entire connection, indeed. I mean, I know people don't like to be confronted with this, but the very fact of the matter is our country, whether you like it or not, was established on a Judeo-Christian foundation. And saying that, when we say that, we're called racists and xenophobes, and
or you want a theocracy,
Islamophobes, and we're totalitarians and despots. There is there's a documentary just started yesterday officially on the American Revolution.
Yes, I want to watch that. Ken Burns, even though he's a super lefty, but he makes pretty good documentaries.
He's a left-leaning guy, but you know what he can't change, Chris? He can't change the founding documents.
That's
I mean,
true.
they put it there. I don't know. See, I know he's a lefty. I wonder if he's just a big lib and maybe he's not a leftist because they put the original words up on the screen where they were scratched out and edited and all that. And it says inalienable rights of, freedom and liberty. And it talks about, God-given and the founding fathers. Some of them were devout Christians. Some of them were just deists.
Yes.
But they all believed that there was something greater than themselves, than their government, and they wanted to have the people govern themselves. It was really revolutionary.
Yeah.
That had never been really attempted before. I mean, ancient Greece played around with a little bit. And look, America had its sins and failures, right? We had slaves in the 1700s. Women couldn't vote in the 1700s. But they put the words in there, Chris, that allowed us to get to that point. They didn't say only white guys who own land.
Right.
They said all people, knowing that they couldn't make it so at the time, but opening the door to that eventually happen someday.
And you can even take it back even further to the original pilgrims who came over to the New World. Why did they do that? Because they were suffering religious persecution over there in England. They didn't want to join the Church of England. They wanted to worship the way that they wanted to worship. So they took the perilous journey, the 3-month journey in a wooden ship over to this country. A lot of them, or to this continent, a lot of them didn't make it. A lot of them died on the way. Some of them died while they were forming their colonies. All of that's based on wanting to practice their religion. And then you look at the founders, of course, 100 years later, that instituted religion in the Constitution, basically gave that protection for it. They were theists, some of them, a lot of them were Christians. And now, just 250 years later, just want to erase that. I think it's a dangerous, dangerous thing. And I think the reason why our country is in moral decline is because we've taken religion out of our society. Not trying to proselytize anyone. If a child is in school and this is not my religion, fine, you don't have to participate. But why do you have to get to the point where you feel that something's being forced upon you because the majority of people believe in this? And to me, the 10 Commandments, it's a Judeo-Christian type of thing, but those things work for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a Christian to follow the 10 Commandments and live a good life and be a moral person.
And one way to really put a liberal or especially a leftist in the corner is to ask them, well, what's special about the United States of America? Okay, we have freedom and liberty here, right? I think most people would agree in those kind of ambiguous, lofty words. Well, freedom and liberty to do what? As you pointed out, and as I often say, the pilgrims came here. People fled the old country for two things, largely. Economic freedom and religious liberty, right? Economic freedom. Because in the old country, even though slavery was out of vogue, largely becoming out of vogue and being declared illegal, unlawful in a lot of Western European nations by that point in time, especially by the time we got to the late 1700s, you were still owned by the king. Like everybody, right? Doesn't matter what color you were, where you're from. The king ultimately owned all your stuff. The state owned the means of production, right? And so they wanted economic freedom. And if you wanted to practice religion, you could, but you had to practice the king's religion.
Exactly. You had to join the Church of England.
Period. The end. And so economic freedom, religious liberty. And that's what our country was founded upon. Judeo-Christian principles for everyone.
It's so simple.
And they don't like it.
It's so simple. And, we talk about the founders. Now, Thomas Jefferson wasn't necessarily a Christian. He was a theist. He is famous for basically rewriting the Bible and taking out the things that he didn't like and kept the things that he did like, but I think he saw the basic morality and goodness in it. And I think that's what counts overall.
He's a great guy to emulate.
He is. And finally, the Prison Foreign Choir of January 6th Defendants is working on an album, Tim, to be released next year on the 5th anniversary of the Capitol attack. It's going to have a single called The Anthem of the Free. So we'll be looking forward to when that'll happen. All right. Great show today. Fast show coming up. Larry Connors USA. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
folks, the Clayton Sleep Institute and my friend Dr. Ojal back supporting free common sense conservative radio. ClaytonSleep.com, treating the full range of adult and pediatric sleep disorders from sleep apnea to insomnia, restless leg syndrome, periodic limb movement, and narcolepsy. What an awesome place. New comfy setting for the sleep lab. ClaytonSleep.com, 314-645-5855. Better sleep, better life.
Right now, 1 in 4 women in America will have an abortion before age 45. But together, we can save lives. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here. Reach Reproductive Health is here to equip parents in crisis situations to choose life. And Reach also empowers them to be parents and to come to Christ. Be a part of it this holiday season. Visit outreachforlife.org to learn more and to support this life-saving work. That's outreachforlife.org.
This December 13th, join wreaths across America at Belle Reve Gardens Cemetery as we remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and